Good morning, gentlemen. This video is for a deck update. Initially, the estimate that I gave at the beginning was based on the determination that I could come in, unscrew the deck from all of its mooring, and put a new deck in. But that did not happen. I'm assuming that the deck has been here for the old one's been here for more than 25 years, and every single piece of wood was rotted. As a matter of fact, I have some pictures. Initially, I started on the end, and I was removing 3 boards from the very center. And once those boards were loose, 2 6-foot sections fell off the corner, and the whole thing collapsed. This end of the deck, when it collapsed, it broke this water line, which has been repaired, and it also broke the exhaust valve for the heater, which has also been repaired and redesigned with the new deck. But the old mooring was 2x6s that was screwed directly into the beams that protrude from the home. And that was not an option to use those. They were rotted, and none of the deck would unscrew. And I didn't want to pull the screws out of the beams. That would create a cavity that more water would seep into and continue the rot. And all of the beams coming from the home do have some pretty extensive wood rot. Some of the big cracks I've sealed up. A few of the beams have had some pretty major repair before, but it didn't look like they did much to keep water out, and they are pretty rotted. Several of the beams, that's another one that was cut off probably halfway and extended. But several of the beams, not only are they rotted, but they're very warped and twisted in a fashion that it was pretty difficult to get this deck level and square. Every piece of wood that's up here right now, no two are the same. Every single one has a different cut, different angle, different length, but they all turned out very square. I'm very pleased. On each side of the beam, as opposed to 2x6s, they're now 2x12s. And screwing them into the beams was not an option. Screws were not holding. So each one on each side sandwiches the beam with 5/8 bolts that not only create a sturdier frame for the deck, but it also gives much greater support for the beams and takes a lot of stress off of those. And between the bolts, there are 8-inch timber locks that do go all the way through. The front of the frame is secured with timber locks as well, that go 8 inches into the beams that they're attached to. And everything is custom cut to fit around each beam. Each one of the posts up top, the upright posts, those are still in great shape. And I didn't want to take those down, just for the fact that the way they're bolted into the home, because they're in good shape, I chose to leave those there. So the design's going to be slightly different from what it was before, but it's going to be a much sturdier design. So the initial estimate of $10,000, like I said, was based on just being able to come in, remove the old wood, and replace it with the new wood, which turned out to be impossible. The 3 quotes that I sent Chuck in the beginning, 2 of them were online. One was from Home Depot, and one was a contractor's site. And those were based on what contractors would charge just for a basic deck. And they ranged anywhere from 15 to 22,000. 15 on the absolute lowest end. I'm pretty sure that if somebody had quoted, let's say 17 as an example, once they came out and ran into the issues that I ran into, it would have probably gone up about 6,000 from that point. Still trying to keep it under 17, and right now I probably have an additional $1,500 in materials on top of what you purchased, Steve. And like I said, I'm trying to keep this under 17 total, but it has been quite a bit more work. I started Tuesday, September 2nd, and I've been sleeping here on a cot, and as of Tuesday, September 2nd, I have just under 200 hours only on the upper deck. There were over 100 screws that had to be individually cut to avoid ripping them out to create further damage for the beams. But these beams have been through a lot. There are saw marks, puncture holes. They're split with pretty wide gaps from front to back on every single one of them. And that's part of the reason why they are so rotted. They're kind of just literally decaying apart. And so another thing that I've done to try to halt that decay process is each one of these are going to be sealed from front to back. This is the end beam. This one was in the worst shape. This one has had repair. It looks like there are 2 beams. Somebody came in at some point and bolted a second beam to the first one in order to give it support. But once these are all sealed, water will no longer seep into the beams, and it will trickle down to the end where it will run out. This is the exhaust vent for the heater, and that will be cut off at the end there. And then also another change that will be made will be to the satellite dish installation. Whoever installed the satellite, there are 4 coax cables that go out into the home from the satellite, and there were over 200 staples that were stapled directly in around the sheathing. So the satellite cable, this is going to go into a conduit. I'm not going to staple it back. That's probably the worst thing you can do to a coax cable is staple it over a long distance, because one break in that sheath will begin to decay the signal if water gets in that line. So it is all going to be in conduit, and it will come out from the same place around here, pointing up to the southwest. And this spotlight right here, when I was putting in the bolts for these beams, this housing is plastic, and as I was working on the beams, just the vibration from them, this thing collapsed. The plastic housing had a lot of rot as well. There's a piece of it on the left there. It's very brittle. It just kind of falls apart like peanut brittle. So that will be replaced, and that's where I'm at now. It is Saturday today. I don't remember the date. I've kind of lost track of time, but I'll have the railing up today, and hopefully within the next week to week and a half, stairs, landing, and the lower deck will be completed. But I will keep you guys updated, and I talked to Chuck about requesting partial payment. There are still a few more things that I'll need to get for this, including more sealant. So far you have $5,500 in materials, and I was requesting another $6,000, which will be about half of the rest of the amount that I'll request. And if it starts looking like it's going to go over 17, then regardless of how long it takes to complete it, we'll just say we'll cap it at that. I'll try to get it under that, but I can't guarantee it. Just depends on how everything else goes together. So if I have any other questions, I'll give you guys a call. Just one more quick look. This is going to be a beautiful deck once it's completed. Everything's super square, and this is framed more like a home than it is a deck, due to the nature of the wood that I'm attaching it to on those beams. So once it's completed, this may be sturdier than the house. Everything is hung with joist hangers, 5/8 bolts through and through, 8-inch timber locks everywhere else. And I can't wait to complete it and have you guys come see it.